What's up? I'm making this video because I had a pretty interesting conversation with one of my coaching students very recently. We were talking about his ads, we were looking at his ad account, and one thing which he quickly realized is that he was extremely profitable. Everything was looking really, really well. However, his CPCs were completely trash. Okay, he had trash, terrible CPCs. Every guru would have told him to turn it off. And then he asked me, okay, well, I'm turning this off. I'm retesting. I said, whoa, stop. Why are you turning anything off? And then he said, yeah, well, because of the CPCs. But he was ridiculously profitable. And then I explained something to him, which I thought is such an interesting, important topic because it is being portrayed very, very incorrectly on ecom YouTube. And I want to make it clear. So the cost per acquisition, the CPA, it doesn't matter which ad platform you're on, does not only come down to your CPC. Probably the most important takeaway from this video. Most people make it seem that a perfect good ad is the one with the lowest CPC possible. And that is bullshit. That is not true. Other important metric that is just as important as the CPC is the conversion rate of each ad. And I'm not talking about the conversion rate on your website specifically of your offer. This is what's crazy. This has nothing to do with your offer in the first place. Nothing. Absolutely not one single thing. Let's go to columns. Let's click on customize. And I want you guys to add in two metrics right here. Okay. We're going to click on custom. Going to click create custom metric. And then I want you guys to call this conversion rate. Okay, and then what this is going to basically be purchases divided by link clicks. That's it. That's what you're going to do. Keep in mind percentage, format, conversion rate, create metric, add it in, click on it, boom. Another metric which I want you guys to add is the add to cart rate. And so that's going to be add to cart divided by link clicks, format, percentage, save. KPIs that I typically look for. Now, when it comes to conversion rates for each ads, obviously it should be pretty similar to the one on your website. It should be higher because you also will have ads that are lower typically. So it should be around 5 to 10%. Now the add to cart rate at least has to be 10 to 15% on each ad. Okay, so I typically look for at least for 10 link clicks, one add to cart. That just has to be the case. And so this is actually a much more important this is actually a much more important thing than the CPC, because with this you can actually do so much, right? CPC is just CPM and CTR combined, but the conversion rate of an ad comes down to a lot of different things. And so I want you guys to imagine this is the time span or the timeline of an ad. Okay, this is like what you edit in CapCut or whatever. So what does actually happen here? Well, you can have a very, very short ad. If this is like 30 seconds right here and you have no specific disqualifiers, which I'm going to get into now. Now, if this has a really good hook, it's going to have a cheap CPC and a high CTR. If it's very engaging and if you sell a product which is not very tapped in that country where you sell it to, it's going to have a low CPM, therefore even lower CPCs. However, this has absolutely barely anything to do with the conversion rate, and ads like this, the shorter your ad is, the lower your conversion rate is going to be as well. So what disqualifiers essentially are just variables that make your ad longer, however disqualify a bunch of people in the process of doing it. And so the best example for this would be a specific call out in the hook. So let's say this is your hook, and instead of saying your same line of text, POV, you found this whatever for $20, that would be your normal hook, very aware, blah blah blah, cool, cheap CPCs, right? However, right, if you have a very specific call out to a very specific targeted narrowed down niche, you're going to disqualify most people. I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say in your hook you say, POV, you're a 45-year-old mom and you found this for XYZ dollars, right? It's the same exact hook, but it speaks to only a very, very, very specific niche down, essentially just very, very specific niche down person, right? So what's going to happen now without changing anything on the ad set level, right? No targeting, nothing, still broad. What's going to happen is this ad is going to have a significantly lower hook rate, a significantly low click-through rate, however, a significantly higher conversion rate. Why? Because everyone who's not a 45-year-old mom is just going to keep scrolling. And this is like why I'm seeing this ad. But everyone who is a 45-year-old mom is going to think, okay, oh damn, this ad is specifically made for me, right? And so you can have multiple disqualifiers all the way through your ad. For example, another thing would be actually, talking shit on other solutions. So this is called the unique mechanism of the problem, explaining why other solutions are bad and really going deep and deep and deep into the problems that people might have. Now, let's say someone's interested in the product but doesn't have that problem specifically, which does happen. Well, what's going to happen is once they see this, obviously, they're not going to be as engaged in ad. They're going to think, oh, I don't really need this. I don't struggle with this problem. Therefore, they're going to scroll. right? And so the people that do struggle with this, once again, they're going to be much more enticed, much more engaged, much more intent behind that click, but the click is going to get more expensive. Keep that in mind, okay? Another thing which you can have, and a big thing which I personally like to play around with a lot, is the offer drop. So I'm going to, mark this very big right here, because the offer drop is essentially, kind of leaking or giving away everything, right? If you mention what your entire offer is, imagine this: if someone clicks, there's no way technically that they wouldn't buy. They already know everything. They can't be surprised on your website. If someone doesn't know the offer, then you always will have people that click and that are completely surprised about the offer. However, if someone does know everything about the offer already and then clicks on your website, right, he will not be surprised. He will know everything that he wants to know. Maybe he needs a couple of FAQs that you have on your product page anyways, and then he's ready to buy. However, what's going to happen here? Most people are not going to engage with this. Most people are not going to like this. Most people are going to be surprised. So the surprise effect happens, instead of it happening on the website, it actually happens on the ad. So most people click. However, the ones that do click through are the ones which we focus on, because they're going to convert at a much higher level. And so I want you guys to play around with disqualifiers as much as possible, depending on what your creative test is telling you, and it's all in the numbers. For example, let's say you have a really good CPC, however your conversion rate is bad. Well, what you can do is just add in more of these disqualifiers, okay? All you got to do is take that ad concept, take that hook, take that whole creative, even if it's an image ad that is already working, and just add in more disqualifiers, disqualifier after disqualifier after disqualifier. It's going to increase CPC slightly, but it's going to massively increase conversion rate. And so, for example, this is an example that I always like to give because it makes so much sense. If you double your CPCs but triple your conversion rates, obviously it's a trade, it's a deal that you would make, because it makes sense. You make more money from an ad like that, even if the CPCs are a lot worse than most of these gurus would tell you to just turn off that ad. Now, another thing, this goes both ways, because if your CPC is really bad, it's really high, but your conversion rate is too good, right? So this can be the other way around too. Let's say your CPCs are just too high, like way too high, and you're kind of outweighing the good conversion rate, then what you can just do is just remove a bunch of these disqualifiers, right? Just get rid of the disqualifiers in your ad, make it shorter, make it more compact, remove the call out, remove the offer drop, remove the unique mechanisms, and it's going to be the same concept, it's going to be the same hook, but it's going to have a lower CPC with a little bit worse conversion rate. And it's just a numbers game, because it's all in the numbers. And now that we've set it up in your ad account, if you follow this, if you haven't, then go back and rewatch it and actually set it up, because this is as important as the CPCs. People who don't have their conversion rates set up also shouldn't look at their CPCs, because it's as important. And I promise you, it's as important. And this has nothing to do with your offer. Even if you have the exact same offer, an ad cannot convert at all. Another ad can convert at 10%, right? It's completely different. There's nothing to do with your offer in the first place. Of course, if you have a good offer, if your store is aesthetic, if it's built properly, if you have a lot of social proof, all that kind of stuff, it's going to convert better, and you kind of help the ad. But essentially, the ads, like the creatives, do everything. They do all the work for you, right? And so this is just a numbers game. It's just, I recommend really just breaking down every single number, every single thing that you can have, and they can even look at and actually just like figuring out where the problem is, because it's either in the CPC or in the conversion rate, or both, right? And you know how to fix everything, and now you actually know how your cost per acquisition comes together. It's not only the CPCs, it's the conversion rate on your ads specifically, not on your offer. Really important, remember this. Now, a very cool concept to actually figure out what types of disqualifiers to put in your ads, or if you kind of don't know where to start with this, is the BANT concept. BANT is essentially, this is a concept by Alex Ramosi, which is there to qualify leads or to qualify people, and you can absolutely apply this to e-com. First one is the budget, okay? Do people actually have money? Now, the easiest way to qualify or to disqualify people that don't have money is the offer drop, right? And you can do this in the hook. Like I said in the beginning, you found this for blah, blah, blah. You already dropped the price, right? Or at the end of the ad, right? Or risk reversals, essentially, just like kind of, justifying the price or mentioning guarantees or stuff like that, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is authority to actually making the decision. So what does this mean? Who are they going to asked to buy this for them, or, if they should buy this in the first place, what other people are involved to make the decision. For example, a dress or something, which is, targeted towards younger women, they might ask, send this to their boyfriends and say like, hey, does this look good? Or if they don't have money, they're going to send this to their parents and ask them to buy it for them, right? And you can talk about all of these things and handle all those objections in your ad, okay? Really important. That's the authority to make the decision. Also, super big thing. Another example for this would be like pregnancy or baby products, right? It's oftentimes going to be girls or women actually finding those on their feeds and then sending that to their husbands and saying, hey, do we actually need this, or can you buy this please? And then you oftentimes, if you sell a baby product, you target women specifically. But if you look at your Shopify orders, which is pretty funny, you have a bunch of male names in there, and the reason is exactly that. Women are just not ordering themselves, sending it to their husbands. Now, if their husbands decide that they're not going to buy this from this ad, then you're pretty much lost the purchase that you paid for, right? Even if the woman was convinced. And so a way to combat this, once again, is to talk about this in your ads and handle this in your ads, and to tailor your specific ad creative to actually handle both. So convince the girl and make the ad longer, and convince the husband or the boyfriend or whatever, okay? Third thing, obviously, is the need, right? So if they don't have the need, the problem that you solve, and this is exactly unique mechanisms that I was talking about, then you're not going to get them in the first place. And you should absolutely disqualify everyone that doesn't have the need, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get the money, even especially if you're selling higher ticket products, and I'm talking higher than $50 to $60 to $70, so higher than usual or average AOVs on e-com. In e-com, I would say you need people that have a need, okay? So like, imagine this, right? Someone comes to your store, they're just interested in the product, they just have they don't really have the problem, but they're just like maybe unaware and just like don't want to have the problem in the first place, right? Well, you could disqualify those people, because if you have a high AOV, they're not going to buy anyways, right? So you should talk about the unique mechanism of the problem, right? You should present the problem, you should say, oh, I tried this, I tried that in the ad, nothing worked, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the unique mechanism of the solution. So why is it better than all the other solutions? Why is it new? Why is this revolutionary? And all these things are going to disqualify people, make the ad longer, once again, increase CPCs, but massively increase the conversion rate. And then last but not least, the time to actually put in to solve the problem. This is actually pretty cool. This is also something which is usually for service businesses or like for higher ticket stuff, but you can also apply this to e-com. Essentially, if you sell a product which is kind of like needs some work or some attention to actually work, like skincare, like weight loss, stuff like that, essentially, you can actually tell people how long it's going to take, because people who kind of expect it to work immediately, they're going to click to your store and maybe they're going to read through the reviews. And if some of the reviews say, oh, within 2 weeks it worked, but they wanted results immediately, again, they're not going to buy. And all these things, and there's a lot more, but the BANT one is a really, really basic baseline, really powerful one that you can kind of follow and actually just kind of figure out what disqualifiers you need. Now, another couple that I like to use just to give you guys a real complete overview. First one I'm going to give you guys is before and after, right? Because every time you have a before and after comparison, essentially just like, really there's going to be a lot of people who kind of like resonate a lot with this like person that you show or story that you tell in that before and after, but most people aren't. And so those people are just going to scroll, but the ones that do actually are the ones which we're going to focus on there. And then once again, they're going to convert a lot higher. Now, another one which you could use is, scarcity and then urgency, right? And so these are probably the last two that I'm going to tell you, because essentially always most people, when you do scarcity, when you do urgency, are not going to resonate with it. But once again, the one that actually this really, really catches, that's the types of people that we focus on. That's the type of people that we want to get on our website. And even if our cost per clicks get like up to $3-4 with this, if we're converting every other person that comes to the website, technically, right? Obviously two extreme examples, but this is possible and you can do this. And so I want you guys to take from this video that you should absolutely look at your CPC just as well as your conversion rate, because if you're not doing that, you're not being fair to your ads, and you can actually manipulate all the data that you're getting and iteratively make everything profitable. And it's just a matter of how much work are you actually about to put in. And this is just like, I'm eliminating every excuse that you can't control. You can actually control your entire performance of your entire e-com store. It's all in the numbers. I hope you guys could learn a thing or two in this video. That was pretty much it. Thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention, and I wish you a beautiful day.